Hey there, fellow comic book aficionados. Welcome back. David Eon here with a little bit of a comic book discussion. Today, we will be talking about Spidey Super Stories. Spidey Super Stories by Marvel Comics, a sort of a simplified version of Spider-Man. And what I mean by that is basically these are written with a much younger audience in mind. They do not have quite the sophistication, as it were, of, say, Amazing Spider-Man. They toned it down some to target a much younger audience. So it's sort of like when Marvel was doing Star Comics. And I'm sure some of you are quite familiar with that. The Spidey Super Stories, however, are just as desirable to a lot of collectors as the Amazing Spider-Man is for a variety of reasons. There's a variety of reasons. There's several things that make Spidey comics very interesting that are pretty much guaranteed sales when you're going to a comic show, for example, provided they're not desperately overpriced. Even really rough copies of this book will sell. And they're not that easy to find. They're not that easy to find. These are well-read, well-loved books. So you don't come across them that often, and when you do, they're usually pretty rough. Like, I have some pretty nice, clean examples. Fortunately, I've been hunting around for these for a long time, and I try to be discerning as often as I can, and so I do have several copies that are just really clean, sharp examples. But usually when you find Spidey Super Stories, they're like this if you're lucky, and you can see this is a rough copy. And as I explained also, they are very simple stories. They're not complicated. It's made for a younger reader. Now, the appeal, of course, obviously they are connected with the Electric Company. Spidey Super Stories and the Electric Company. It literally says it right there, the Electric Company, because a live-action version of Spider-Man appears on the Electric Company starting in season 4 in 1974. They began doing a Spider-Man segment on the show, which is what drew attention or interest from a younger audience to the Spidey Super Stories in the first place. That was the appeal, that was the crossover. And the Spidey's appearance on the Electric Company is actually the first live-action incarnation of Spider-Man. The first time you see live-action Spider-Man is on the Electric Company. And so for a lot of young people, this is their first introduction to Spider-Man, period. I mean, they had the earlier Saturday morning cartoon Spider-Man. But for a lot of young people watching PBS, and that might be the only programming they were seeing, that was their first introduction, and it drew interest to the comic. That's actually really good marketing. So, of course, naturally, Spidey Super Stories started coming out in 1974 to coincide with the first appearance on the Electric Company, and ran for 57 issues. So there's a lot of nostalgia and a lot of appeal from that perspective. Growing up, seeing it on the Electric Company, and you look at these and you say, oh wow, I saw this on the Electric Company. I used to watch the Electric Company when I was a kid, and I actually did. I used to watch The Electric Company, the original Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers, all of that stuff, Zoom. And so it really hits a lot of nostalgia buttons. Also, there's a lot of crossovers in these books. A lot of Marvel superheroes and supervillains appear throughout, just like in the traditional stories that you would see in Amazing Spider-Man or elsewhere. Another appeal to this is it's an early independent Spider-Man book outside of Amazing Spider-Man. And I know we've seen a lot of incarnations of runs of Spider-Man, you know, Web of Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, the McFarlane Spider-Man run, on and on. This is an early incarnation of an independent Spider-Man title outside of Amazing Spider-Man or not connected to it. And as a matter of fact, it's pretty much completely disconnected from the Marvel universe. This is like a universe all of its own. It's like a universe variant. There's no, even though a lot of heroes and villains from the Marvel universe appear in Spidey comics, there's no crossover back to traditional Marvel. So it's like an independent universe. One thing you might have noticed as I flip through this, there's no advertisements. This is as close as you're going to get, is the thing that you clip out for a subscription. There are no advertisements in Spidey comics. Now you see here, and you probably noticed this as well, it says clip and collect Spidey stamps. Spidey number 19, the Lizard. Similar to Marvel value stamps. They had the Spidey stamps, which started, I believe, with issue 17 and ran off and on towards the end of the run. Unlike Marvel value stamps, though, as you can see, it's printed directly on the cover, which can be problematic. You know that the value of a book goes down if the Marvel value stamp is missing. What happens when something's cut out of the cover? It hits the book a lot harder than something clipped out of the page. Furthermore, and I have a copy here that's missing the stamp, and be careful if you go to shows or you purchase on eBay or whatever, most of them are probably missing the stamp. This is the only example I have, fortunately, where the stamp has been cut. The rest of these, the stamps are there. More often than not, the stamp's going to be gone. So always be aware of that. But since there are no ads in the book, it can interfere with the story, since there is storyline in both the front and back cover. This doesn't necessarily interfere with the story here, which on the back panel is often just like a bad joke. And they literally say that because they say, you see Spider-Man says right here, send us your riddles and jokes, we'll print the worst ones. They're not kidding. These are pretty bad. But it still interferes with the art, if not the story completely. And so there's that issue as well. But yeah, since there are no ads, they utilize every bit. Like you see, they start off talking about Prince Namor in this panel and then work their way into the story. So again, this ran until 1982. So it ran from 1974 to 1982 when they stopped the run at 57 issues. Value stamps, again, started at issue 17. And always watch out for it. I mean, most of the time, like I said, when you find Spidey Super Stories, it's going to be in condition like this. A lot of the Spidey Super Stories are going to be like in a 3.5 to a 5 range, maybe a little better. If you can find them 8 or above, you're doing good. Most of mine are really sharp. I do have a couple of beater copies like these, but most of mine are really sharp because I've been very discerning. And you see Nova there. Again, there's a lot of crossovers, heroes and villains, Dr. Octopus there. Another nostalgia button for these is that Electric Company characters often appear in the stories. For example, there's Easy Reader, who is in fact Morgan Freeman from the show. So Easy Reader and other characters that you would recognize from the Electric Company often appear in Spidey comics. It should be noted also that there is newsstand and direct editions. Like you can tell right off the bat, you see this is obviously a direct edition because it's got a line through the barcode. That's a direct edition. And then if you look at this one, you can see that this one is a newsstand because it has a clear barcode. And they started doing that, I believe, with issue 40. So issues 1 through 39, I think they're all without any markings like this one. You know, there's nothing there. There's no barcode, there's no little picture box or anything like that. But with issue 40, if I'm not mistaken, is where they started putting a barcode on the book. Like you see here, issue 36 does have a barcode, but obviously that's a newsstand issue. And I believe that with issue 40, I'm pretty sure, but you know, I could be wrong. With issue 40, they started doing it as direct market and newsstand variants. And there shouldn't be too much of a difference between price on a newsstand or a direct market, although because that's the trend, a lot of dealers might put a premium on the newsstand variant if they recognize it, because that's just how things are done. You know how it is, guys. But yeah, I just thought I would share some of the interesting nuances of Spidey comics, or Spidey Super Stories. Again, these are books that a lot of people are looking for. You don't find them very often when you go to shows. When you do find them, they're usually beat up or missing the Spidey stamp. So again, be aware of that. Finding high quality or in-grade copies, I guess you could say, is not easy, but still fun anyways. These are fun stories. Even if they are simple, they're still pretty fun stories to read through. There's Mary Jane getting tormented by a shark. It's not actually a shark, it turns out to be a submarine. But hey, whatever. That's what she gets. Anybody into these? Do you collect these? There's a handful of comic lines like this that if a dealer at a show has them, they will move. And some of the titles might surprise you. Ghost Rider, the original Ghost Rider series, if it's in good shape and priced right, you'll sell them out. They'll all sell. G.I. Joe will sell. The Demon, the Jack Kirby the Demon, will sell if it's priced fairly, if it's priced reasonably. Marvel Godzilla. You know, there's a handful that are like, yeah, those will move if I've got them. Those will move if I got them. So again, you know, do you collect these? Are you into Spidey Super Stories at all? Did you used to watch the Electric Company? They tried to bring it back, but the new one was just terrible. The original one pops. Isn't that how it usually is, though, folks? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. Please do give the video a thumbs up if you got something out of it. I sure hope you did. Share it if you can. Subscribe if you're new. All of that good stuff. Check out some of our other content. You may find something you like. And if that is it, then what more can I say? But thanks for watching. And we will see you again soon.